So this conference title situation could be a mess. The SEC and the Big Ten, I think, could be looking at a major issue. Sean hit me up and said, did you see Lane Kiffin say that teams don't want to make the SEC championship as they're afraid the losing team will be left out of the playoff? Could that really happen? I'm going to give you my answer, Sean. I don't think that the loser of these conference title games will drop out. If they drop out of the playoff, that is a straight up 5-alarm crisis. I don't think they'll drop out. I want to know if they're going to drop, period. So this is the most predictable issue imaginable. And that is, as you disproportionately shifted emphasis to the playoff, you reduce the emphasis on things that already predated the playoff, which at its very core is what people like me hate. I was against playoff expansion because I was fine with college football the way it was, because I value Saturdays in the fall, and then I got on board with conference title games, and then we have this man-made playoff come along and it removes value from all of it. So that was unavoidable. I can't believe people are shocked that this is a thing, but it is a thing. So really what's happening here, if I need to get you caught up on what Lane Kiffin said, is Lane Kiffin said publicly what a lot of people are saying privately. I promise you they are, because I have had many of them say it to me. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have Colin roll the video of Lane Kiffin, and then I'm going to talk to you on the other side. Let's roll it.
You know, it's changed. The conference championship, you know, could have a big impact both ways for people. So I've talked to other coaches, so I'll just kind of give you the feeling from some other coaches that, you know, they don't want to be in it. And, you know, the risk to get a bye, the reward to get a bye versus the risk to get knocked out completely. I mean, that's a pretty big, that's a really big risk, just to get a bye. So I think it's ended up being a very unique situation of all, you know, postseason sports, the way that system's set up there, and how you could go to that and get knocked out, and if you don't go, you're in.
They're not following the script, are they? Shame on these coaches for being actual humans with functioning brains. Yeah, so I think most people with an aforementioned functioning brain could have seen this coming. Just like most people could have seen putting 18 teams in a league but not having divisions could create a logjam at the end of the year. But hey, whomst are we, right? We're not sharp enough to run conferences and decide formats and whatnot. Well, anyway, Lane Kiffin just said something there. Let me tell you something. I've had more than half a dozen. At the very least, I've had half a dozen head coaches tell me that this year. Point blank, off the record, they'd never say it publicly. It's not that they don't want to win their conference. It's they don't think playing in the conference championship game is worth the risk. And it's so pathetic. Oh, Josh, you think those coaches are pathetic? No, they're saying the same thing I would say. I don't have to like the format, but I'm going to go by the format you put in front of me. What is the end goal here? To win a national title, right? Well, it used to be that worked hand in hand with winning your conference championship. Now it kind of doesn't anymore. It doesn't really matter if you win the conference. I know what you're shooting back at me with right now. Well, Josh, there have been years where Alabama didn't win the conference title and they won the national title. Do you understand how fine the needle was they had to thread for that to happen? We are going to have multiple teams who are in this playoff now who didn't win their conference title. Some of them didn't even play for their conference title, who have a really good shot of making a run and winning the whole thing. So please don't do the comparative analysis of previous years. This is year one of a new world. Okay, the asteroid just hit, everything got wiped out, we are rebuilding from scratch. Please don't try and compare the way things used to be. I promise you, without naming names, I have had, I would guess, double-digit amounts of coaches tell me that this year. I've had players tell me, I've had more coaches tell me that than players, but I've had players tell me that. Why do they think that way? Well, they think that way because they have common sense, because they're able to think for themselves. So here's what you have to do if you're the committee. You have to set a definitive precedent here. It's a new world. Everyone's learning how to think for the first time. We don't have historical data points to draw on. So you got the Kiffins of the world and several others, I'm promising you, that won't go public with it, that are thinking the same thing. Oh, I don't know if I want to go play for the conference title. Yeah, it'd be nice to win it, but I mean, we're in. If we don't play in it, if we play in it and lose, who knows what happens to us? And so I'm good. Y'all go play for it. I'm good. You can fix this by not taking any punitive action against losers of conference title games. Did you think about the audacity of a committee watching you fight tooth and nail through the SEC, be good enough to go to Atlanta and play, and you lose there while everyone else is sitting at home and you get knocked for it? I mean, that would be beyond egregious. So Kiffin said, I don't want to maybe go play in Atlanta because I may lose and get knocked out of the playoff. I don't think there's a world where that happens. That would be like a complete toxic doomsday scenario. I don't think that'll happen. I'm going a step further. Not only you better not drop someone out of the playoff if they lose their conference title game, you better not drop them at all in those Power 2 conferences. And I know that sounds very hypocritical because I didn't include the Big 12. I didn't include the ACC. What I'm telling you point blank is I think the Power 2 conferences will be held to a different standard. You can like that or not like that. I'm sure there are many opinions on that. I am speaking for specifically the SEC and the Big 10. If you drop either of their conference title game losers at all, it is your fault if people continue to think this way and talk this way. You got an opportunity. Let's say Texas plays Alabama in Atlanta in a few weeks, and Bama goes into that thing ranked 7th. If they lose to Texas, you need to keep them at 7th. Because if you drop them, number one, you probably cost them a home playoff game. But number two, you just crystallized the fear that everyone has that if I go to the conference title game and lose, I'm going to get punished for it. I don't want to go. I'm happy. The risk reward doesn't make sense to me. I'm happy. It's all on you. It's all on the committee. It's not on the teams. It's on the committee. Got a lot of people watching live, by the way. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel because the show costs nothing. It's free. It costs nothing to subscribe. It doesn't tie you to anything. It doesn't sign you up for anything. It just helps our show. I expect big changes in the college football playoff format in the coming years because you've got to circumvent this. You cannot have people questioning the value of playing for a conference title and winning a conference title when you've paid the tens of millions of dollars that you have for that conference championship if you're a media rights holder. If you're CBS or NBC or Fox or ESPN, whoever it is, you pay so much money. If you're those conferences, you get so much money off those conference title games, you've got to have them. There is no world where they go away. I hope you guys understand that because I've had some people DM me and say, oh man, it's just a formality. They're going to go ahead and get rid of these conference title games. No. No, they're not going anywhere. They actually are going to be reimagined. And what I think almost, this is a little conspiratorial, but it wouldn't surprise me if there were some people in the room smarter than we give them credit for who were looking around at this mess and just smiling because they know I've got to create the mess before I can propose the solution that I've wanted all along. See, I'm a believer that once we started going down this road of realignment and expansion all over the place, I'm a believer that once the SEC started swallowing teams up and once the Big Ten started swallowing teams up, that they were on an eventual course that would land them in NFC, AFC territory. I've thought that for a long time. Colin, one of the first shows we did here in 2020, I said that. And I got laughed at by a lot of people. Well, here we are, just 4 years later. No one's laughing. Even if you disagree, you're not laughing anymore. But here's what I think that would look like. I don't know how the rest of the playoff would play out. I literally have no idea what you would do with the rest of the country. But to maintain the sanctity and value of your conference championship game, I think in the future, the SEC and the Big Ten will both have built-in conference tournaments, maybe semifinal and final, or quarterfinal, semifinal, final, no different than the AFC and the NFC look at the end of the NFL season. And then I pump out my champion and you pump out your champion, and then we have a playoff, or maybe that format is baked into the playoff structure, and those games happen at the neutral sites that the playoff games would already happen at. I'm just telling you, the alternative is non-negotiable. They cannot get rid of those conference championship games. They don't want to. They couldn't if they did want to. So that's off the table. So you got one choice and one choice only, and that is make sure people care about winning the conference title, and no one's talking about the risk not being worth it. I also think that it's a shame, just on a different note here, that every adjustment we make to college football's playoff devalues something that was already there. You notice that? Some people saw that coming. I don't think it was too hard to see coming. It's why I was not a huge fan of it. But you just notice every one of these moves that's made. First, it devalues the regular season. Well, now we've expanded the playoff, and now what are they questioning the value of? Coaches. What are they questioning the value of? The conference title game. Did you ever think that you'd hear coaches questioning the value of a conference title? Well, how did we do it? Well, it's because we came in and we built ourselves an ATM and we put a playoff sticker on the side of it and called it a playoff. And now we've told everyone this is what matters. This playoff thing, this matters the most. And that's what your bonuses are tied into. That's what your incentive clauses are tied into. That's what you're playing for. That's what you're working towards. And so in the aggregate, hey man, if we devalue some regular season games and if folks don't want to play in the conference title game, oh, we still got our playoff, man. Ugh. That's what I say to it all. Ugh.